Welcome to the next episode of Macroeconomics. Chapter 14. Things are starting to get all together in this chapter. In this chapter, we're going to cover the aggregate demand and aggregate supply model. And I'd say chapter 14 and chapter 15 together is going to be many of the questions from your final exam will deal with the last few chapters, as they always do. But you really want to get to know this stuff really well. Honestly, this chapter's not too hard. Next one's going to get a little bit more complicated. If you haven't done micro before, make sure you cover the supply and demand model in the micro review section. All right. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply model, or more commonly known as the ADAS model. Often utilized to analyze short-run fluctuations in the economy around its long-run trend. So a period of around its long-run trend. So we're going to see in a second what is the actual output level, what is the long-run trend level, and how it fluctuates. And eventually, when we'll talk about recession, a recession is a situation where we have falling incomes and rising unemployment. And a depression is a very severe recession. So when we have severe recessions, especially the ones that we get to know by date, like even the 2008 one, would be known as a depression. 3 key facts about economic fluctuations. Economic fluctuations, also known as business cycles, are irregular and unpredictable. Therefore, even though you might be able to say, I expect a boom or I expect a recession to hit, you may be right, but more than likely, you're not totally right. If you've studied a lot and you've seen this happen a few times, you can have a good idea, but no one's able to predict this with certainty. Most macroeconomic quantities fluctuate together. We'll see how, as recessions occur, how certain things drop. So we'll notice that a few things move together. Whereas output falls, unemployment rises. So these don't move in the same direction, but as output falls, unemployment rises. And let's just see all of this over the years. So this has been real. Again, I always want to highlight what I'm talking about. Real GDP in billions of dollars. So here in 2002 dollars, if you're curious. So they're using this year here. And over the course of this, you could see that real GDP has gone up pretty much the whole way through. There's been some small dips, and the ones that are highlighted in these colors are associated to certain events like this 2008 recession. So you'll see the same areas highlighted in investment spending, and you can see big drops in investment spending through these recessions. There's always fluctuations that happen in investment spending, but there's that naturally big drops in investment spending in a recession. So it's something good to keep in mind when we were calculating GDP, which was C plus I plus G plus net exports. Even though I wasn't the biggest component of GDP, it's one of the components that seems to vary the most when we are hitting recession. Because investment moves, what makes investment fluctuate, there's the real interest rate is one, but the other big things that make investment fluctuate is general business conditions. So if you're expecting the economy to not go well, you're not going to invest as much. And you could also think of your industry-specific business conditions. So if the general economy is not doing well, even though your industry is not the one that's impacted the most, just because everyone's losing their jobs, it's going to hurt you. And industry-specific, well, if there's no more snow, well, naturally anything that relates to skiing will probably drop in demand. As we could see through these same time zones here, massive spikes in unemployment in that same kind of situation there. Okay, so unemployment rate does increase with recessions. So in this analysis, we're going to look at the aggregate demand and aggregate supply curve just to give you guys a bit of an intro, but then there'll be sections only on aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Aggregate demand shows a relationship between price and national income or output, the output level, whereas aggregate supply shows a relationship between price and as well output. So we could see that similar to the supply and demand model, aggregate demand or the demand curve is downward sloping. The supply curve is upward sloping, and here instead of just talking about price, we're talking about price level. And here instead of just talking about output for one specific good, this would be like the aggregation of all goods out there. So next up, we're going to look at aggregate demand, and we're going to look at how it's built and how it fluctuates, what can shift the aggregate demand curve.